This restless Yellowstone caldera is truly living, breathing. Every once in a while, they burp.
A lot of things can happen that we're not really ready for.
Yellowstone National Park has one of the most diverse collections of natural wonders in the United States. With its geothermal features, abundant animals, and more than 2 million acres of sprawling wilderness, Yellowstone is one of North America's greatest assets. However, one of the park's officials has cautioned that this wonderful area will soon become a hazard. What exactly is going on in Yellowstone? What sort of warning have authorities issued regarding Yellowstone? In today's video, we bring you an announcement made by Yellowstone National Park officials on an impending natural disaster. John Colter, a veteran of the Lewis and Clark expedition, was the first American to visit the Yellowstone area. Interestingly, after returning home after years in the woods, Colter began to tell others about the area's extraordinary geothermic activity, but few believed his fantastic claims and mocked the place, dubbing it Colter's Hell. It's obvious to see why some were highly skeptical. The region seemed too good to be true. For instance, did you know Yellowstone has its own canyon similar to the one in Arizona? The Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, as it is officially named, was formed by erosion from the Yellowstone River. It is over 1,000 feet deep, 1,500 to 4,000 feet wide, and around 20 miles long. Indeed, the view of the canyon from the highest point in Yellowstone is one of the most stunning in the park. However, this is only the tip of the iceberg. Yellowstone is an extremely diversified terrain. It contains around half of all the hydrothermal features on the planet. The national park has about 10,000 hydrothermal phenomena, including hot springs, mud pots, fumaroles, travertine terraces, and of course, geysers. The beautiful hues of these bodies of water are due to bacteria called thermophiles, which love heat and dwell inside them. Yellowstone National Park is 3,472 square miles in size and is located in the northwest part of the United States. Yellowstone National Park is located in 3 states, despite the fact that its official location is in Wyoming. The majority of Yellowstone, or 96%, is in Wyoming. A minor piece of the park, or 3%, is in Montana, and a tiny section of the park, or 1%, is in Idaho. Yellowstone is rich and has provided for years. For example, Obsidian Cliff is a large outcrop of dark volcanic rock located on the route between the Norris Geyser Basin and Mammoth Hot Springs. This location has been restricted to the public in order to avoid theft, although it was a significant location for the ancient inhabitants, with the most important source of high-grade obsidian in North America, a type of volcanic glass formed by the quick cooling of lava that gives the sharpest edge of any natural substance on Earth, 10 times sharper than a razor blade. Native Americans utilized it to craft knives, scraping tools, spear projectile points, lateral darts, and arrowheads after the discovery of the bow and arrow 1,500 years ago. Things constructed from the Yellowstone Obsidian Quarry have been unearthed all across the Rockies and the Great Plains in Alberta, and also as far east as Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ontario. Surprisingly, when Yellowstone National Park was established and passed into law, many congressmen backed it because they believed the harsh and isolated region had little economic benefit. However, the establishment of the national park has proven to be a watershed moment in how the United States manages its wildlife. Animals such as grizzly bears, wolves, lynx, foxes, moose, and elk can be found here. But don't be fooled by their good looks. These creatures are wild and should not be approached for your own safety. According to park laws, you must stay at least 100 yards away from bears and wolves, and at least 25 yards away from other large creatures. However, there is something considerably more hazardous in Yellowstone that you can't even outrun when it comes after you: the volcano. Yellowstone is a volcanic region, so don't be fooled by its awe-inspiring beauty. A massive reservoir of hot lava 5 miles deep lurks beneath the park, fueled by a massive plume of molten rock pouring up from hundreds of miles below. Remember the hot springs and geysers we described earlier? The heat has to come from someplace, and the source is molten rock. As the magma rises into the chamber and cools, the ground above rises and lowers on a regular basis. Yellowstone's volcano is so powerful that scientists refer to it as a supervolcano. It is capable of supereruptions, which are the largest eruptions imaginable. They have the potential to do significant damage. A supereruption is defined as anything with a magnitude of 8 or higher on the volcanic explosivity index, in which at least 1,000 cubic kilometers, 240 cubic miles of material is ejected. This is enough material to bury Texas 5 feet deep. These supereruptions are thousands of times more powerful than even the most powerful eruptions we've seen in the past. Magma, or molten rock from beneath the Earth's crust, is near to the surface in the Yellowstone area. This relatively shallow body of magma is the result of heat convection occurring in the mantle. As plumes of magma ascend through the mantle, they melt rocks in the crust and create magma reservoirs that are composed of partially molten and partially solid rock. Mantle plumes transport the heat from the mantle to the crust, resulting in hotspot volcanism. As tectonic plates move over hotspots, they leave a path of volcanic activity. Over the last 16.5 million years, as the North American plate migrated westward, a hotspot that today lies beneath the greater Yellowstone area pushed the volcanic deposits across Idaho's Snake River Plain. While you may enjoy your visit to Yellowstone today, the huge volcano beneath it has erupted violently 3 times in the past, dooming any organism unlucky enough to be close. The first occurred 2.1 million years ago and was one of the largest known to humans. It covered 5,790 square miles, with ash reaching Missouri. The entire volume of volcanic material emitted is predicted to be 6,000 times that of the Mount St. Helens eruption in Washington in 1980. Around 1.3 million years ago, the second eruption occurred on the western end of the caldera established by the first. The third and most recent one occurred 664,000 years ago, and it ejected so much material that it formed a 34-mile by 50-mile hole in the ground known today as Yellowstone Caldera. While Yellowstone has stopped producing supereruptions, it continues to produce lesser ones. Approximately 80 of these have been documented. About 174,000 years ago, one of these relatively minor eruptions formed what is now Yellowstone Lake's west thumb. Huge lava flows of viscous rhyolitic lava and less luminous basal lava flows partially flooded the caldera floor and adjacent landscape during and after these violent eruptions. The youngest of these lava flows is the 70,000-year-old pitchstone rhyolite flow in Yellowstone National Park's southwest corner. Even if there is no apparent activity from Yellowstone right now, the volcano is still active and doing its thing in the shadows. Pressure from the shallow magma bodies resurrected 2 domes within the Yellowstone caldera. As a result, magma might be 3 to 8 miles beneath Sour Creek Dome and 8 to 12 miles beneath Mallard Lake Dome. Both domes expand and deflate as the volume of magma or hydrothermal fluids beneath them increases and lowers. The entire caldera floor rises or falls, but not as much as the 2 domes. Net inflation over the last century has forced the caldera floor to lean southward. As a result, the southern shores of Yellowstone Lake have receded, and the trees there now stand in water. Another effect is that the lake's north end has risen to provide a sandy beach near Fishing Bridge. We've recently been able to keep track of Yellowstone volcano's actions thanks to scientific monitoring. In Pelican Valley, for example, researchers have detected significant ground deformation along the principal axis of the caldera between the popular Old Faithful and White Lake. In 1975, they began monitoring probable ground deformation using vertical motion assessments of ground benchmarks. The scans discovered an exceptional rise of the whole caldera by more than a meter in just 10 years. However, additional GPS readings revealed that the caldera experienced subsidence or sinking until 2005, when it reverted to extreme rising. The most significant vertical movement was observed at the White Lake GPS station on the caldera's eastern rim, where the total uplift from 2004 to 2010 was approximately 27 centimeters. The movement of deep hydrothermal fluids or molten rock into the shallow crust magma system at a depth of roughly 10 kilometers beneath the surface is thought to be the source of the uplift. Supereruptions have been observed at least 47 times throughout the planet's history. The most recent one occurred some 26,000 years ago in Lake Taupo, New Zealand. Another occurred during the Toba eruption 74,000 years ago, which caused a 10-year-long winter and nearly wiped off mankind. Yellowstone, on the other hand, has the distinction of hosting 3 of them, and Yellowstone can erupt at any time. Scientists have made attempts to forecast when volcanoes would erupt, but it is still possible for one to take everyone by surprise. So what happens when Yellowstone's supervolcano erupts a 4th time? Fortunately, the volcano will most certainly give warnings, and because it's a super eruption, the warnings will be more severe. The entire park will most certainly experience strong earthquake activity at first. Those earthquakes could take weeks or months to break apart the rocks above the magma before an eruption. Hopefully, that gives everyone enough time to flee for their lives. Scientists anticipate that at least 230 cubic miles of material will be discharged. Everything in the path of the lava flow will be destroyed, and it might last weeks or even months. People in the park's local neighborhood will bear the brunt of the destruction caused by pouring lava. A considerably larger population, however, will be affected by something else: volcanic ash. In fact, volcanic ash will cause most of the damage, with around 1/3 of all materials from the supereruption ending up in the atmosphere. Volcanic ash is a dreadful mixture of broken rock and glass. It goes far because the enormous force of the eruption will propel it miles into the air and scatter it over the country. Using historical ash deposition and extensive modeling, some researchers predicted that a Yellowstone supereruption would create a massive deadly umbrella cloud that would spread in all directions. It would bury the region in up to 3 feet of ash, wreaking havoc on places like Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado, Montana, and Utah. Residents in the Midwest will fare better, but they will receive a few inches of ash, while both coasts will receive much less. The precise distribution would be determined on the time and weather patterns. Volcanic ash is extremely destructive, capable of overwhelming and killing people, plants, and animals. A large amount of it will also crush structures, causing roofs to cave in and trap people within. Even a few inches of ash, as much of the country is prone to, means calamity. It has the potential to ruin crops, impede roads, and create major respiratory problems. Sewer systems can become clogged and power transformers can be damaged. Flying would be impossible because much of North America's airspace would be closed off. It would be impossible to maintain a necessary supply of aids, and relief personnel would be unable to move about the country. Intriguingly, a Yellowstone eruption will influence you wherever you are due to its effects on the global climate. The planet's temperature will drop. That may seem silly given that the volcano will blast hot materials into the air, which should enhance the temperature, but here's how it works. Volcanoes, you see, can spew sulfur aerosols into the atmosphere, which reflect sunlight and cool the environment. These particles will not survive long in the atmosphere, thus the effect will be temporary but dramatic. When Mount Pinatubo erupted in 1991, for example, the Earth cooled around 1 degree Celsius for a few years. A Yellowstone eruption is many orders of magnitude larger than this one. Therefore, you can probably imagine the impact that it will have on the climate. Let us know what you think in the comments section below.